Welcome to Global Tax Talk. I'm Will Morris, PwC's Global Tax Policy Leader, and I'm delighted to be here in Lima, Peru for our first Latin American Client Tax Policy Roundtable. I'm also delighted to be joined by my colleague Sandra Benedetto, a partner in Chile and Tax Policy Leader. Sandra, welcome.
Thank you, Will. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Good. Well, it's great to have you here. Okay, so let's start by talking about Chile, which has been looking at a broad range of tax reforms over the past few years, trying to deal with issues around deficits and other problems. And recently, the government has proposed new VAT regulations, which will impose VAT on the sale of low-value goods, as well as also around the issues of marketplaces. So, I mean, generally speaking, what tax reform do you see happening right now, and what do you see coming in the near future, perhaps?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. It's because it's a lot of things going on down there. Well, as you maybe are aware, we had a very broad tax bill that was presented by the government last year, and that bill was finally rejected at the Congress. So the Congress decided not to move forward with that. So bearing that in mind, the government decided to split it, okay? And that's the reason why it sent to the Congress the so-called compliance tax reform, which is the one that is being now under discussion in the Congress, okay? That tax reform, as you said, well, it contemplates or it includes some VAT provision, but I would say mainly for international companies doing business in Chile, that bill includes, for example, new regulations regarding reorg provisions. So that's going to be very interesting. Also, it broadened our general anti-avoidance provision, the general discard provision. So that is something that is also being discussed very thoroughly down there. And also it introduced some modifications regarding transfer pricing. So we should expect that this law moves forward, even though the government has no majority in the Congress. And besides that, the government also informed that they are planning to send another bill that it will probably include modifications regarding income tax. But, well, still, we don't know the final wording yet. So that is something that we should expect to happen within the second semester of this year.
Come back to one of those things that you mentioned, because as we've been meeting over the past couple of days, this issue of the general anti-avoidance rule, or GAR, has clearly proved to be very emotional. Yeah. So could you perhaps just give us, because this is obviously important for business, could you give us a little background to why it is so pointed right now?
This provision was incorporated in our system, I would say like 8 years ago, okay? But nothing relevant happened so far, besides the fact that the Chilean IRS published a kind of catalog with different, I would say, transactions that they consider to fall under this provision, okay? But besides that, nothing happened. So why is now so emotional? It's because, well, you know that for that provision to apply, the Chilean IRS needs to go before the tax court. So is the tax court the one that has to define that the transaction or the structure or whatever was whether assimilation or was an abuse of the form, and therefore follow under this general anti-avoidance provision, okay? And in March, I think that was just a couple of months ago, we had the first decision made by the tax court regarding this provision. So that's why it has been a lot of discussion around. We expected that the case was regarding something else, but finally it was regarding a foreign financial institution that was previously registered before the Chilean IRS. So there's a lot of discussions, and it has been a very, I would say, criticized decision.
And obviously international implications there as well. Exactly. Great. Good. Okay. So let's talk about tax administrations because there's lots of talk about how they can keep up with technology, how they can sort of meet the desires and the needs, indeed, to increase collection. And indeed, we've also talked over the past few days about collaboration between taxpayers and tax authorities. So what trends are you seeing in Chile and perhaps more broadly across the region?
Yeah. Well, Of course, the incorporation of technology is a good point. I would say that in that sense, maybe Chile has been always a little bit ahead if you compare with other Latin American countries, in the sense that, for instance, in Chile, we have electronic invoices. There are a lot of sworn declaration from third parties. So basically, the Chilean IRS and the tax authority has a lot of information regarding taxpayer, I would say almost immediately, okay? So there's a lot of information, okay? So I think that and that is, I believe, that is a trend that it will continue, okay? On the other hand, the Chilean IRS is also using technology in order to implement better assessment plans. So you know that they define every year a kind of management assessment plan that it is published by the Chilean IRS. And if you see, basically it's very focused on information that they gather based on this technology means.
Okay. So actually, lots of developments in that space and probably more to come. So Sandra, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much. It was very nice being here.
We will look forward to getting you back on Global Tax Talk. And thank you for joining us, and come back again so that you stay Global Tax ready.